Howdy folks, I'm Caleb Sunstead, your host and normally the game master of Sounds Like Crows, but today instead I'm doing Fireside with Carmichael, the creative director behind Fables of Refuge. Carmichael, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for joining me. Hey, I was wondering if you could tell people a little bit about yourself and what you're up to.
Yeah, I'm a YouTube creator. The last 5 years I was working at Corridor Digital, and I got drawn into Dungeons & Dragons and reconnected myself with my inner Renaissance Festival nerd. And I decided to start a D&D channel, put together a crack team of enthusiasts, and we just dropped episode 1.
Yeah, it literally just came out. I don't know when this will release, hopefully soon, but you just had your first episode on the 18th of July, yeah?
18th or 17th, one of the two.
It was great. You guys have had a really positive response so far. Like, the audience is pretty crazy for first episode.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Well, I know as a creative director, you have to wear a bunch of different hats, but I need to know, is it harder to keep cats from jumping into frame or keeping a good audio mix for a one-take production?
Honestly, I think it's the audio mix. I knew it would be tough, but I underestimated it entirely, especially the fact that it was a brand new recorder that I've never used before.
Oh, sure.
And I couldn't get the record button to work.
That's a little intense.
Yeah.
A thing that happens with APs is people don't really have good like volume control. You know what I mean? Did you have to like keep bumping up audio levels, or what made it difficult?
So my original thought, rewind a little bit here. So how the setup is built is there's a single C stand in front of the dungeon master across the table, which I have I was lended a light from Aperture, and I put a 300D up top with a 360 lantern.
Okay.
And that helped light the whole table. And my thought was, I'll just mount the microphones to that one C stand.
Okay.
That once I put the light on there, I was like, there's no room for these mics. I was fortunate enough to get 6 Deity S2 mics. So I have really nice microphones, even though episode 1 won't prove that. So I was only able to mount 2 shotgun mics and then a conference mic hanging from the C-stand. And it was just a general room audio. And it all went into the Zoom 12 channel mixer.
Okay, yep. So
and I couldn't figure out how to record on that sucker.
Dang. So, like, for episode 2, you're going to have everyone with their own individual mics instead of shotgun mics?
Yeah, everyone's going to have their own individual shotgun mic.
Oh, okay.
Above their heads.
Okay. Yeah, that's going to sound great. I don't know. I think people kind of give you a pass for your first episode, or sometimes even your first couple episodes. You know, I think most people, at least in the podcasting medium, that are into this sort of thing, know there's a lot of kind of like growing pains, you know, with trying to record such a weird live production, you know.
A 3-hour long live production is gnarly.
You said somewhere that your audio files or your video files all together was like over 600 gigs for one recording.
Yeah, I did a test for 30 minutes with all the cameras, and I did the math. Okay, so this times X equals 3 hours. And without a battle cam, it was just the 3 primary cameras. It ended up being about 600. And then after episode 1, it ended up being about 700 gigs.
Oh my God. That's crazy.
And with episode 2 going to have a battle cam, it's going to get even more.
Wow.
It's only going to grow too, so it's...
Well, transitioning from the technical to the D&D side of things, you know, everybody has sort of a gaming origin story of, you know, their first game and their progression. I was just wondering what yours was, how you started playing, and how you got into this.
So the first time I played was on an online D&D game, and I just played with a bunch of people. We were having a blast. I think we only played for like 3 weeks.
Sure.
I think I was an elf ranger. Then the next time I played, I was a pre-made tiefling by my friend Spencer.
Okay.
And we played that for, I think, 6 or 8 weeks. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
Then Jarrett invited me to his home game, where I currently am playing. We've been playing for a year and a half, and we're only at level 6. And yeah, I've been playing there since, and my home game character is Flint, the cowardly barbarian dwarf.
What made you take that leap from playing in home games to producing this show?
I generally have always wanted to become a filmmaker.
Yeah.
Working at Corridor Digital prior to this, I learned a lot about the online world of filmmaking, and I got to see where the industry is going and see the shift in everything. And this was a painful thing that I think a lot of young filmmakers and wannabe filmmakers really need to sit and eat this fruit, is that you don't want to make feature films anymore.
Is it just because of issues with the industry, or it's hard to get into, or?
It's a mix of those, but it comes down to it's so limiting. It's an expensive short story with high risk. Whereas like Netflix is telling long form stories where every episode, and look at Game of Thrones too, every episode's a feature film.
Yeah.
You get to make multiple feature films.
Yeah. I think I agree with you. I mean, as much as I love movies, television has definitely taken sort of a bigger role, in what I consume on a day-to-day basis. 2 hours does not seem like a lot of time to tell a story,
No, and very much so the 3-act structure, for example, as important to understand the origin of the 3-act structure is, feature films have fallen into very formulaic creations because we've made so many. We praise such an original approach to movies because we're so saturated by having so many. So getting something as simple as a Quiet Place is a treat.
Yeah.
But when we go to Netflix, we're praising Stranger Things, or we go to HBO for Game of Thrones, and it's like, this is essentially the exact same thing.
Yeah.
These are all things we've gotten, but we're just like any proper person wants to. They just want to spend time in the world that they like. That was the thing when Avatar first came out, James Cameron's Avatar. People wouldn't get up to leave out of the theater because they just wanted to spend time in that world. I don't know what the right words are. It's like, it's not that we want to escape. We definitely do sometimes, but we want that rich, juicy stuff.
Man. Yeah, I've never heard anyone say it like that. That's really wonderful, actually. You're completely right. There's something about the RPG experience. A lot of people, I don't know if you've noticed this, but a lot of people that play RPGs seem to be film and TV buffs. I think there's something about the mediums together. I think exactly what you said. I've never heard anyone say it that way, but it's probably, in my opinion, the best way to immerse yourself in a world, on a one-to-one basis.
It's interesting when you look at a show like Stranger Things, or you look at, probably is going to be the case for The Witcher, or if you look at any of Marvel's lineup, it's just a massive D&D game.
Yeah.
It really is. Yeah. At a certain point, the players just get in a fight and they argue over their backstories.
Yeah. Like you said, in a world of saturation, I think D&D and, live streams and actual plays are all kind of interesting to watch, because even if you're trying to hit a traditional, 3-act story structure, it's never going to be perfect. It's never going to quite hit it. The dice are always going to skew the story and make interesting surprises for the audience, for the people playing. I don't know. I've never quite experienced stories quite like I have, listening to shows. There's a sense of uncertainty that doesn't really exist in a scripted show.
It's funny, is like I prep myself to play D&D by thinking of the movie in my head that my character is in, and then it's like I go into the writing room and instead of sitting back and like, oh, this is what we would do, how cool is that, we roll dice and we figure out how stupid everything is. It's like, well, I guess I'm not that cool after all.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate, man.
It's the best.
Speaking of other streams and other actual plays, in a sea of $50 camcorder D&D streams on Twitch and posted to YouTube, what sources of good inspiration are you drawing from for this project, whether it be other shows running D&D or film and television?
So how I got into D&D content was a very unique thing, and I'm trying to keep it in mind for like a business model on my end, is fans made highlights of, I think it's called Acquisitions Incorporated.
Oh, yep.
They made highlights of them animated in little crappy Flash animation. Not crappy, simple.
Right, yeah.
And I just loved them. They can't be crappy. I loved them, see? But it was just like 5-10 minute bites, and I was like, this is so much fun. This is so great. It's because of the dice, they're doing stupid stuff, and then they're also just comedically great. And that rolled into me watching hours of their work, and then rolled into me finding Critical Role. Then I started comprehending it as like a creator, as a filmmaker, and then I think recently I discovered Matt Koval.
Yeah.
He's an amazing fountain of information and knowledge. It's great. And my approach with inspiration was I looked at Critical Role, and I understood on a creation level how simple it can be, but how complicated it probably is. And I was like, okay. And I took note of what Corridor Digital does on Node. And I was like, okay, I see some things I like, some things I don't.
Yeah.
And my whole thing was I have a lot of ideas that I want to bring to the community, but I need to remove as much production time as possible to do those ideas. So eventually I will have to do live streaming to remove the post-production of these episodes. So it's like, okay, if that's the milestone for the show, how do I set myself up financially in investing in equipment to do that correctly? So my idea was, all right, I'm going to follow the basic and most common layout that's on Twitch or D&D players. It's like, okay, I should follow this and not reinvent the wheel. That being said, I found it interesting when R&R came out that they went for a more show style, cutting to close-ups, 2 shots, wide shots, a little bit of sliding everywhere. And I think that has its benefit. But when it comes to thinking about the audience, which is something that I really specialize in, is you don't want them to always feel like they're watching a show. You want them to either think about the characters and visualize the world that you're describing to them, or you want to feel like you're in a room of friends, a room of peers, and you're there with them on the adventure playing the game. So a show style is not what I should go for. So I just went for the classic D&D setup. Well, now classic.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that anyway, because it seems to me from an outside perspective, as someone that's not a YouTuber, that there's almost like a missing opportunity or a market that's not being tapped for edited actual play YouTube content, like with how popular jump cuts are these days on YouTubes with vlogs and stuff. You know, I think it would be decent to do. I also just said YouTubes, so I look forward to the angry emails.
Facebook?
Yeah. Well, speaking of Corridor, you seem to have this intensely loyal fan base to you specifically. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, apparently.
Apparently, yeah.
I love every single one of them to death because, one, the obvious, they came over and supported me in my own new adventure. 2, to connect with another human being online, like, I've done it. I'm fans of other creators. It is in the same vein as when I was a kid and it was like I see a star on TV or a character on TV. When I was a kid, I watched Tenchi Muyo. And my favorite character in Tenchi was Ryoko. And the voice actress is what made that character. And eventually they went on to, I think, a season 4 and they recasted the character. And I wasn't the only one who just jumped off. Like, it was a big thing that a majority of the audience left the show because of her performance, her take on the character. And then it was just randomly 3 years later on a radio broadcast, she was there doing an interview, and everyone thought it was a Tenchi Muyo push. That connection with a person. There was a channel I found that talked about this. It was a very crude video, but it had a very good point. When we absorb content, we're not trying to escape. We're trying to produce the chemicals in our brain that create emotions. It's essentially, we want the simulation of what our ancestors emotionally felt. We're so physically and emotionally safe now, generally, that we don't live day to day in the adrenaline of survival. And for those who do live that way today, that absolutely sucks. But for those of us who live in the safety of society with walls and electricity and internet, we don't really have survival stimulation, and stories can provide that. And I think that a part of our brains really demands that. And connecting to a human being, a storyteller who is a part of you experiencing that, I think that's almost everlasting. And it's really weird because I'm in Corridor, I was behind the camera.
Yeah.
It's like the only reference to me existing was Ren looking up past the lens, or a quick soundbite, and then occasionally me popping in front of camera because I was excited to be a part of the scene. That's what always blew my mind, was everyone's like, oh, but you pop up in the Corridor vlogs all the time. Like, all the time? I don't know. There's reference to me existing because people would reference me as the cameraman and the editor. It's very interesting.
Maybe from your point of view, that's true. But so I think I've been watching Corridor for, I don't know, maybe like 5 years or something. But I only found Corridor Crew or Sam and Nico like maybe 6 months ago. And when you're sort of binging through those older episodes, dude, you show up quite a bit if you're binging through those, you know?
If you're binging, you're experiencing a whole nother thing than people once a week, let alone the people who are making it. It's a completely different experience.
Was it hard to transition that audience from Corridor to Fables of Refuge? Like, it doesn't... Like, Corridor is sort of a VFX short film channel. Is that how you describe it?
Corridor is, yeah. Corridor Crew, it's more of a personality reality content. I don't want to say reality show. Like, we all know that vlogs are amplified when the camera's rolling.
Right.
But at the same time, I was very strict about not becoming a reality show. And it's like, I want to capture real things. And that's my joy. I suffered drastically from loving Schadenfreude. Enjoyed immensely filming other people being tortured emotionally on camera. It is my favorite thing in the world. And I always filmed Ren suffering constantly. And Ren got his sweet revenge in Dubai. So with that being said about Corridor Crew, I don't think it was that hard in the sense, like, it's part of the personalities. You're following one of the members of the family walk away and go on to this other thing.
Yeah.
And thankfully I was given a great push from Corridor Crew, which I think helped pitch the idea of what I'm doing next.
This is a tangent, but since you were talking about Acquisitions Incorporated, did you ever watch their sort of reality show with air quotes around it of their offices at Penny Arcade?
No.
Okay, it's really good. The way it's produced and the way it's made it's very real, and it just has this very uplifting sense to it. It's really tightly cut. It's like 15-minute episodes. The music is wonderful. I would recommend it to anybody that hasn't seen it. They stopped producing it, so there's like 2 seasons, but it's pretty bingeable.
Is it on YouTube?
I think it's on their website. I think it's on PATV, Penny Arcade TV. How do you feel about content creators that have like their own YouTube player or video players on their websites instead of YouTube? Because I hate it. I hate it. Anyone that does that.
In general, I really do dislike it. I mean, since jumping into D&D, I've been looking at Vimeo a lot. Vimeo for businesses and small businesses. I know that might not be your complete demographic, but if anyone out there is thinking about that, Vimeo is something to look at. Holy cow. They've improved so much. I can upload an episode to Vimeo and it will not just embed, but like properly post it on Facebook and YouTube at the same time, and then collect all the analytics for me to see on Vimeo.
That's beautiful.
They live stream 4K 60.
Wow.
Yeah. And they live stream it to all the platforms, just hosting at Vimeo, collecting all the analytics and all the comments so you can see it in one place.
Wow.
Like what? Where did you come from?
Yeah, that's cool, man. Dang.
And Vimeo allows you to post or embed videos on your website with different styles of players.
Okay.
So
Dang.
it looks more customized. And I feel like either that's what everyone's doing and Vimeo sucks at it, or people are going to really different third-party providers for some stupid reason rather than just uploading it for free to YouTube and embedding that into your website.
Yeah, it seems like the way to go. I don't know what it is with the other third-party content people. I guess I need to look into Vimeo again, but it definitely does seem like I always have playback issues or, you know.
I mean, I think Vimeo is a better player than YouTube, because the codec that they play back is much beefier and crisper. It's just because of that, it crashes a lot.
Well, we're gonna move on before I keep trashing people I shouldn't trash.
Oh, but a tangent to
please.
that is starting up Fables of Refuge. I created the Patreon with the idea of doing exclusive content.
Yeah.
Because a few creators solely do that, where they'll post a video once a week or once every other week, but they'll be posting 3 videos a week solely to Patreon.
Oh,
and
dang.
Yeah. And I was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
There's a paywall here, but it's on like an indie small business level than it is big corp.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a paywall.
Yeah. And I thought about that as a business model. And when it came to like your previous question about inspirations in the community, looking at Matt Koval, R&R, and then Critical Role, and it's like they all have their separate business models.
Yeah.
Not trying to be different, but like what kind of business model can I bring to the table that provides a different value? And having that exclusive content was something. And I was like, okay, what can be exclusive content? And I came up with all these ideas, which we can go into. I got to make sure that no one has expectations. But
yeah, I'm curious. Yeah, we won't hold you to any of this, you know.
But my issue was, how do you upload exclusive content to Patreon? It's so horrible. It has to be an unlisted YouTube video posted on the Patreon community feed. So it just looks like you're scrubbing through a Facebook feed and you can't find it half the time. And when you click on it, you have to make sure you're clicking to send you to YouTube to watch it. It glitches too much on the Patreon website.
Oh, wow, that's gross.
And I was just like, this is a horrible experience.
Yeah.
I tried contacting, people can find this on Twitter. I was trying to hit up Squarespace and talk to them about this problem. And I was like, can I put exclusive unlisted content on my website in a neat, clean playlist player kind of way? And they're like, no, you can only do public videos.
It seems
and
like
obviously I could find a website designer who can build it for me. I totally can.
Yeah.
But I even had to speak up. I was like, Squarespace, you realize there's thousands of content creators who have exclusive content on Patreon who would love to have a website that they can host their exclusive content, and just you log into that page via your Patreon login.
Yeah, that seems like a huge problem.
Oh, what a market. Come on, guys.
Yeah. I don't remember who said it, but there was someone that said if you look at something and you say, I can do that better, you should just do it, you know?
Do it.
Unfortunately, I can't code, you know, so that's out. But
yeah,
somebody out there.
I don't have enough content to put on the website yet.
You just have to yell into the void of YouTube until someone arrives offering to do it for you.
Pretty much.
This is jumping back way earlier, but with the Flash animations, you know, or even like a Harmon Quest, stuff like that.
Such a good show. It just takes so damn long for it to release.
Is there that's like a hard process, right? I mean, you would have to pay.
Oh, with animation?
Yeah. I mean, even if it's so-called.
It's so much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also time. Like,
yeah.
if you want animation to come out in a reasonable time, like Critical Role, very upfront and honest about it, with their animation that they're working on right now. It's not going to come out for maybe a year or two, if that.
Yeah.
To do like a highlight, a 5 to, let's just say 20. That's a good range for D&D. A 5 to 20 minute highlight.
Yeah.
In animation with one artist. It'll take you almost a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could add artists to that, which increases the cost. And you get closer to 6 months, but there's going to be a diminishing return where you just have like one artist per handful of shots.
Yeah.
It's kind of not worth it. And as much as it was a great pull-in for me, I honestly, looking at Critical Role's community, I prefer that Critical Role wouldn't do highlight animations. I like seeing fan interpretations of it, and they're very crude, simple animations. Like they only like, 4 frames a second, so there's big jumps in it and stuff, but it's so great.
Yeah.
And you're seeing different interpretations of the characters.
Well, how would you feel about if they did that as official content? Like if they, instead of like trying to get animation, they were just like, yeah, we're going to have sort of still frames move around like South Park season 1, very, As
official content?
Yeah.
I mean, if they do it, they do it. And people are either going to like it or don't like it. I'll just accept that they're doing it.
Yeah.
But I personally enjoy fans doing it, because then it's like, so like, look at the fan art that they submit.
Yeah.
A range of style, perspective, and goals and intention in the art. If they did official art, it'd be very limiting. The style would be whatever their taste is. It'd become very commercial because of that. And then it also feels like they're taking ownership of fan art in a way. They're not, but that's what it can feel like. And when you just let the community do it, you're giving them the power and welcoming their voice.
I've never talked to someone that has deeply thought about the audience as much as you have. Is there anything I can go consume that would sort of get me on your level? You know what I mean? Like, it seems like I don't know, you keep talking about the audience.
It's making content for 5 years, almost every other day. And it's also, like, I think the biggest thing about that is Nico and I sat together a lot asking the question, what do people want? Like, our biggest talks were like, it doesn't matter how much we lean into the algorithm and try to get the views or the little tweaks, like make it 4K, you boost your algorithm searches. At the end of the day, you're dealing with people. People are consuming the thing you're making.
Yeah.
And it's not that they don't like it. They may just have a bad day. And you got to pitch it to them. Like, if you click this, you're going to have a better day. I brought up the example, and it became kind of a standard, is if you imagine Joe or Joanne at the gas station working the midnight shift every night, what kind of content would they click on? Yeah, we talked about that. And also making the vlogs, I tried to approach it in a very documentary style. So I studied by observation and breaking down documentaries like BBC stuff, early Roger Deakins stuff. You could probably get a sense of it around end of the 2nd season, going into the 3rd season of Corridor Crew. I started really applying Aristotle to the vlogs.
Okay, all right. I mean, you can't just say that and not expand on it. So
it became more of like Walter Murch, a famous editor, kind of has a similar approach to things, and I started with that, but then I got more specific looking at Aristotle, which is like the 5 priorities of storytelling. And in this order of priority being number 1, plot, then characters, then rhythm, melody, spectacle. And that's the order of priority when telling a story in theater. The reason why he always made plot more important than character is you can have interesting characters, amazing characters. It doesn't matter if you don't have a plot to put them on. You need that campaign setting to put your players in. Rhythm being kind of the flow of words, the flow of action. Movies have gotten that down really well. And then melody being the music that supports the rhythm. The rhythm is not built off the melody. And that's something that I learned as an editor, is you kind of don't want to edit with pre-made music, because then your rhythm is limited to the melody versus the melody having to support the rhythm that you create. And then spectacle being the least important thing. Costumes, set, smoke, all that stuff. And I thought about that and I applied that to the vlogs, and I stopped caring about the quality as a creator, the quality of the shots, and I just focused on what's the plot, who are the characters on the plot. The rhythm I'll take care in editing, and the melody I'll take care in editing. So I really want to focus on those 2 things as a creator. Working with Nick Laurent, he is really good at comedy. He's really good at coming up with funny ideas for the vlogs. Yeah. And it's like, if I try to do the same thing, I'm not contributing creatively to the thought process. So I hyper-focused on what is everyone doing any given day. So it's like, Ren, what are you doing? Clint, what are you doing? Nico, what are you doing? And I was looking for the plots that life has put these characters that I have in naturally, and I would just expand on that.
With Fables of Refuge, what would you say that your relation in that context, what would you say your relationship with Jarrett is? Like, I imagine it's a little bit of a juggling act being the creative director. Because, like, for me, right, I am the GM. I'm the one editing it. I'm the one, I'm the showrunner. I got all this stuff, and you're sort of sharing.
Yours.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have to share those responsibilities with Jarrett to some extent. What's that like? What's it like trying to get your ideas into his head and vice versa?
I have a couple analogies because there's no perfect analogy. And I think I think these will communicate it the best. First, traditional TV, Jarrett is like the head writer of a show. His voice is God all the way from pre-production to post-production. Like, this is the story that he wants to make.
Yeah.
I'm the showrunner, and my job is to make sure production tells that story. I'm protecting the creative vision. And it's also taking the production weight off of his shoulders.
Sure, yeah.
So he can just solely focus on creating. He doesn't have to worry about the deadline of the edit or anything like that. I get to stress about that. I get to take the complaints, because if there's negative comments about the audio, it's not emotionally affecting him, where he should be in the mindset of the creative. It's emotionally affecting me.
Yeah.
And then another analogy is theater. I, as a director, I can't, like normal movies or TV, I can't just be there and whisper in the actor's ear like, oh, I like what you're doing. Can you get more of that? Can you, whatever you're doing there, can you explore that more? And stuff like that. I can't do that.
Yeah.
It's more like theater, where I have to wait till the show's over to give my feedback on what I think everyone did well and what I think can be improved. But in the fashion of D&D, I try to respect the player and the dungeon master relationship. So I'll communicate to Jarrett first and foremost. I first don't bother him with the pointless notes. Like, I really think you could have performed that NPC a little bit better. No. I'll point out things like in the first episode, I hope everyone's watched this because this is a kind of a thing at the end of the episode.
Hey, pause now. Go watch it. Links in the show notes.
I'll upload a highlight. There's a dwarven drinking contest that is eating hot, spicy dwarven food, and you have to drink dwarven ale. Yeah. But if you drink, you fail. And he threw out the soundbite of, it's a twisted hot ones.
Okay.
And as well as Jarrett described it, and it made it clear in my mind, and I was like, oh, this sounds amazing. When he said it's a twisted hot ones, my brain finished the imagination. Like, I was like, I know exactly what this is. So a note that I gave him was, if you ever feel like you want to compare something to something that we commonly know, which is important when it comes to online content. Like, if you want to make viral sharing content, you have to know the common human experience, and you have to capitalize on that. So I told him, like, it's okay to just say those things, like, be a little meta with that. Like, if you feel like an easy way to communicate an idea is like saying, this is like hot ones, or this is a twisted hot ones, or something like that, feel free to do that. It will help communicate what you're trying to share as a storyteller.
I always feel like when I do stuff like that, I feel like it has a potential to, like, alienate part of the audience. Should I just be ignoring that instinct?
I mean, potentially. It's entirely up to you and your audience. That's the thing. Every audience connected to a creator is different.
Sure.
At a different point in their own lives. When you think about someone who shares a video on Facebook, retweets a post, or sends an Instagram post to a friend like, oh, dude, you're going to dig this. It's because they know the common experience. Like, I'll share the best Hot Ones video with my friend Christian because he loves Hot Ones. He loves it.
Yeah.
People laugh at gifs about Lord of the Rings because we have an emotional common connection with Lord of the Rings. Whether we disagree or not, we both love Lord of the Rings. So you send me one doesn't simply blah, blah, blah with Boromir, I'm going to laugh because I know the reference.
Interesting.
So that's up to you if you want to apply that.
No, but
I'm very pro that.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I've never heard the other side of the argument before. That's great.
But yeah, as the director, like then I'm also then as like in sports, because it feels like D&D is like a mix of all three of these things, theater, sports, and TV. It's like I'm the coach. Jarrett's the captain of the team, and then the players are the players.
Yeah.
And it's like I can comfort, support, I can essentially communicate a battle plan, like let's have fun, let's do this, and you really pump up the team. But at the end of the day, the players know how to play their positions, and you have to trust that they've been practicing and they're on top of it. And then once they go out in the field to play against another team, they're going to adapt. And you just got to trust that your work with them, that you supported them, you pushed them to be brave with their choices, and that it's a safe place to be as creatively exploring as possible, that they're going to do great.
Yeah. Like on the topic of being a director, are there things you try to do to enhance the atmosphere of the game, or do you just kind of let them take it away and role play till it's over?
For episode 1, it was just role play till it's over. In the future, I have a lot of ideas. Critical Role's only just now, actually, I see them just starting to do stuff similar. Things I want to get to is I want to play with RGB lighting, for example.
Oh, sure.
I don't see anyone doing this, and even if someone else did it, I would be doing it differently. It's playing with RGB lights to communicate visually the scene. So Jarrett will say we're sitting at a campfire. I'm gonna switch the lights into a nighttime with the campfire. We're in a dungeon,
right,
or we're in the sewers. We're in a magma pit. Like the lighting will help their imaginations as actors. And then for those who watch, they'll see it and they'll feel that. In Critical Role right now, I noticed that the cue is when they're in initiative, it's a red light. And when they're out of it, it's a calming blue in the background.
That's cool. That's cool.
And I think that's a great on-off mode. I want to go more storytelling inspired lighting. Eventually I want music to be playing on set for the cast.
Okay. Yeah. Man, that's probably a pretty challenging thought, huh?
Yeah. How do I output a looping music track into an active monitor while keeping it recording, but I want to keep it stereo and then live stream that stereo while the dialogue tracks from the mics are all mono. Because most people only just compress it down to mono or stereo anyway.
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends in the audio mixing and engineering department of the industry who've heard this pitch, and they're very interested in helping solve that problem. I'm like, great, wait till I save my money.
Yeah. That's very cool. Are you a Star Trek fan at all?
I am.
Okay.
I grew up with Picard.
Okay. Yep. Me too.
And I'm super excited to see what Patrick Stewart's going to do with Picard 20, 40 years later.
Yeah, that's going to be crazy. It was strange to see him sort of in those France vineyards, that we saw at the end of Next Generation. Yeah, I'm very excited. He said really good things about it.
I'm also a big fan of the newer Star Trek movies. It's just a nice new interpretation of the world or the universe.
The last one was really good. I don't remember the name of it. I think it was Star Trek Beyond, maybe, and it was fantastic.
I was
minus
the. I didn't see the third one.
Okay.
But I am, even though everyone dislikes it, I'm a massive fan of Into Darkness with Khan.
Yeah, I didn't think it was that bad either, man. I don't understand. Like it's a new interpretation, It's definitely, but maybe that's because we didn't really watch a lot of or start with the original series.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, knowing that, I know the moments that they took from the original movies and series and made a twist on it.
Right. Yeah.
And the whole concept is they changed time, so events will be different.
Yeah.
Like that was the pitch of 2009 Star Trek. Like everyone who was down to go on this ride understood that's the pitch.
Yeah.
And so with Into Darkness was such an amazing experience when you've already experienced the original, because it's no longer a prequel, it's a sequel in a different time.
Yeah.
And those actors sold the death. It was a little campy coming back, but like,
yeah,
like,
but it was good.
Is the actor's name Zachary Quinto? He sold from movie 1 to movie 2, and I would expect in movie 3, like he sold Spock breaking every time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He was a very good Spock. I saw him in Heroes. Anyway, okay, my point.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. I just don't want to get too off track for our non-Star Trek fans. There's this game called
Star Wars is awesome too.
There's this game called Artemis Spaceship Bridge Simulator. And I don't know if you've heard of this.
So cool.
It is. But look up the lighting rigs for that, because the game sends out outputs for all these events that happen. And then lots of people have set them up into these live rigs like you're talking about, where, red alert comes up, shields come up with a glow. Whenever the ship is hit, like all the lights flicker, like on a Star Trek bridge. It's pretty cool.
Artemis would be a fully rigged out Artemis setup. Like, I don't think anyone would complain. Like, Disney could build a set.
Yeah.
and put it in Disneyland, and people would just walk on there and play it, and they'd be totally fine for 20 minutes of that. Yeah,
totally, man. Yeah. And we're getting to a point now with VR where, oh man. Anyway.
The Void. Oh,
yeah, that's a whole other conversation, I guess. Well,
Part 2 coming soon.
Yeah, Part 2. Something I see in the community a lot is that people do not understand how to market their products at all. There's sort of this shotgun approach where, I've seen, people just post raw links up somewhere, with no real description, and it's not formatted for the platform they're on, Do you have any, I can tell by your reaction that you probably have some thoughts about how people should be marketing their stuff in a way that will actually connect them to the audience that they want to connect with.
One, it is technically difficult because it's a lot of things to remember and you're battling against a lot of artificial intelligence. Let's give some examples. Twitter. Kind of have to think outside the box on how can you provide content while also trying to hook people to come watch more content without being overproduced. People like minimalistic things. So for example, on Twitter, post some of your video. Your video is not special. It exists on the internet, just like 400 other minutes of content every second. There's nothing special that makes it wonderful. It's wonderful to individual people, sure. So it's like on Twitter, I'll upload the first 2 minutes of my video. I don't care if it spoils things, but I'll say it on the post. Like, if you want to keep watching this, if this interests you, if making a calendar from scratch is interesting to you, click the link and keep watching. And that's another thing is keywords. Like, why should I continue watching? Creating a calendar from scratch. Oh, that's odd. That sounds cool. How do you do that? I've never done that before. How does one do that? Click.
No, that's interesting. That's interesting.
You gotta pitch value to the idea of random thought that someone can have. Like, I don't care if you have a new show, but if you have something that sounds like a dwarven drinking contest meets Hot Ones, that makes my brain start working. So now I can imagine it. It's like pitch. If you go to an executive it's in a studio, a pitch isn't to lay out your movie and be like, now give me my money.
Yeah.
The pitch is to start their imagination. So that way they want to fund the potential of having their vision made.
I think my favorite soundbite in there is your content is not special.
No, it's not. There's so much. Like, I have the episode 1 of Fables of Refuge is 3 hours long.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. That's a lot of content, man. Yeah.
that's another thing in this community. Everyone's uploading a lot of content.
Yeah.
You're only going to have so much time. That's something I tried to prepare for episode 1, and I didn't do a good enough job, was scheduling. Like, I didn't know Matt Koval's live stream was Wednesday at the exact same time.
Oh, sure.
And I was like, dang it.
Yeah. Have you had any problems sort of trying to integrate yourself into the community as someone without like a lot of strong ties to it?
I haven't felt closed doors. I haven't felt any push. I haven't felt any negative to it. But I kind of haven't experienced like the you move into a community and someone brings you a pie and go, welcome to our community. I haven't experienced that yet either.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird middle ground where my fans have still carried over, and new people who are stumbling upon our content are fans of just other things.
Sure. I always compare it to moving to Alaska, because Alaska will pay you to...
Okay.
Yeah. So Alaska will pay you to live there. If you go there, the state makes enough money that, you know, they basically send out a dividend or a stipend, whatever it's called, to every resident that's there. And
beautiful.
I don't know the exact statistic, but if you stay there over a year, you're likely to stay there. But most people leave within a year of moving there. So everyone that's lived in Alaska describes this sort of cold chill that when you get there, no one cares about you until you've been there a year. And then once you've been there a year, they're like, hey, man, how are you? Because, you know, they actually know that they're going to be able to, if they invest in you, they'll get a return because you're actually going to stay. You're actually going to be there a while, and they're not going to waste time on someone that's just going to leave their life forever in 4 months. Mm-hmm. And I kind of feel it's the same way. We had a really hard time in the beginning connecting with anyone. Once you get one person talking to you, and then, you know, they've got friends in other shows, and you start talking to them, and you slowly, you know, work your way into the community. I feel like that's
the same thing as in the film industry or any creative industry. Like, they're an overnight success. No, we've been here for 20 years.
Yep. You just haven't been paying attention to us. Yep. I have this, I'm a big fan of Conan O'Brien, okay, at least his content. And he gives, I'm a huge nerd. I'm pretty sure no one in my audience or you is going to relate with this at all, okay?
Okay.
But I watched his Dartmouth commencement speech, okay?
Okay.
And he ends that speech with, work hard, be kind, and amazing things will happen. And I'm curious what your thought process is on becoming successful, for lack of a better word, or for breaking through that barrier into, quote, overnight success. I have this running theory that you just have to just grind, and you've just got to work harder than anyone around you. What would you say that your sort of personal philosophy for personal success is?
I mean, so I do think the hustle and grind mentality is very accurate. But I think, especially in American culture, we overread that philosophy to the point that we don't sleep. And Matthew something, I can't remember his name, and I feel really horrible about it. He was on Joe Rogan. Just look up Joe Rogan, sleep scientist or sleep doctor.
Cool.
He's got 20 years of experience studying the human brain and studying sleeping. Lack of sleeping is the number one cause of road deaths, is like one of the top causes next to other things that cause cancer, especially brain cancer.
That's crazy.
It causes early death. And he says minimum 7 hours of sleep a night, average 8, ideal 9 hours. And that's a lot of time when you think of hustlers.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It's kind of like working out. Some of the athletes I know, it's like you can grind, get stronger, better, harder right away. And then your body's going to fail sooner in life versus just small, consistent achievements that lead to long-term success over hard, big achievements early on.
Yeah. Hey, man, Thanks for coming on. This has been great.
Thank you for having me.
I've learned a lot. Every one of these I bring someone on, and you've had such a fascinating perspective on marketing and audience, and I'm excited for the rest of the show, man. Where can people find it?
People can come to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/C/Fables of Refuge, or just type in Fables of Refuge on YouTube. It's far more common of an action.
Cool, yeah.
We have a Twitter and Instagram. We don't have a website yet, but YouTube is the spot where we're putting most of our creative efforts in.
Cool. And if people want to find you personally in any way, is that possible?
Yeah, I also have an Instagram and a Twitter, the C-Mic and the C-Mic Pro. I forget which one's which, but someone took the name on each one, so they're two different names. At C-Mic, I think is also a way to go.
Cool. And I'll put it all down in the descriptions below.
Oh, so you didn't even have to listen to me say all that. You could have just went down to the description.
Yeah, you can just go down there. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for coming on, folks, and see you next Monday.
See ya.
Folks, I hope that was a great time for you. It's nice to get outside of your bubble, get outside of your comfort zone, and talk to people kind of outside of the community you're in. You know, I think I spend so much time talking to people in the podcasting world. It's cool to talk to somebody in the YouTube world. I know that y'all aren't probably the target audience for this, but it was fun, and I hope you learned something from it. Either way, we'll see you on Monday for the final episode of Season 3 of Sounds Like Crows. Peace.